Today is March 16th. That means the 315 deadline is today, this Monday. Now, typically the 315 deadline is on the 15th, but just because the 15th so happened to be a Sunday, it's actually today, the 16th. But what exactly does this deadline mean? Does that mean I got to file my personal return? Does that mean I have to file something for my single member LLC that I set up in 2025 for the business I wanted to start? What exactly is this 315 deadline and what does it mean for me? My name is Karrington. I'm a certified enrolled agent, and this video is going to be going over exactly what that means, what needs to be filed on your 315 deadline. Hopefully, this video will calm your nerves. So, what two business returns are required to be filed on our 315 deadline? The first one being a 1065 business return. And you're like, Karrington, what does 1065 mean? I am talking about a partnership tax return. What this ultimately means is you decided to set up an LLC, and instead of it being a single member LLC where there's just only one member, more than likely yourself, you actually decided to add an additional member. This could be a spouse, this could be a friend, this could be a business partner. But essentially, a multi-member LLC is what it says in the name. It's at least two members that are filing under that entity. That creates a filing requirement, especially if you set this entity up in 2025. So you now have the requirement to file a partnership tax return, and that is a 1065 tax form. This partnership return needs to be filed today by 3/16 unless you are willing to put this return on extension. Now, what is extension? Go ahead and give you the right to do. It grants you an additional 6 months to file that tax return. So you no longer are required to file that full return today. You have an additional 6 months to ultimately get it done, and your new deadline turns in to 9/15 or September 15th. Now, what does today not necessarily grant you? It doesn't give you an extension on time to pay, right? So a lot of times, especially with our flow through entity business returns, sometimes there is a tax that needs to be paid. It's not necessarily a tax that needs to be paid at the federal level. Like I said, this business return typically is a flow through entity, meaning there's a K-1 that is ultimately going to be issued. The tax that I'm talking about or referring to typically has to do with state taxes. Certain states require a state payment coming from whatever business tax return you're ultimately filing. That brings me to the second filing that is going to be due on our 3/16 deadline this year. This Monday, today, is going to be all S corporation returns. Now, that is an 1120S return. Now, typically, that one is created whenever you file Form 2553 or 2553. Now, if I formed a single member LLC, right, and I was making good business profit over these past couple of years, and my tax accountant recommended that I switch over to an S corporation, I file Form 2553, then I do have an S corporation filing requirement this year, meaning that that business tax return is due today, 3/16, unless, again, I decide to put that return on that 6-month extension. But what does the extension not grant us additional time to do? It does not grant us additional time to pay. I will always say that an extension is never an extension on time to pay. It is always just an extension on time to ultimately file that tax return. So you're not necessarily going to have to worry about paying any type of federal taxes or taxes to the IRS when we're doing these business tax returns and we're putting them on extension. The real tax that you're ultimately going to have to worry about is going to be the state taxes. The state will ultimately issue certain taxes for certain businesses, such as California, for example. They issue a 1.5% franchise tax on any net income that is coming in from an S corporation. So what that means is if I had an S corp and I know I'm going to be putting it on extension, but if I'm looking at my P&L from 2025 and I know that my net income in my S corp is going to be $100,000, let's just say, California is going to want me to pay that 1.5% tax on today, March 16th, regardless, even if I'm putting that business return on extension, right? So, and how I got to that 1.5% is if I take 1.5% of my $100,000 in net income, I'm looking at about $1,500. So that's going to be the payment that California is expecting today, 3/16. Now, if you don't make this payment, is it the end of the world? Absolutely not. There is first-time penalty abatement. You will get a late penalty, a late payment penalty, and you will also start to get interest as well. You cannot get out of any interest on payments that are owed to the IRS or the FTB or any other state agency, but you absolutely can get out of the initial penalty, especially if it's your first time and you're a first-time offender. Now, is it the absolute end of the world that today is the deadline for 3/16 and you need to get your business returns in today? No. If you alert a tax professional, if you alert whoever is doing your tax returns, if you give them over your EIN number, you give them your articles of incorporation or your articles of organization, and you give them your operating agreement, more than likely they'll be able to put that return on extension same day. It is very fast to go ahead and put a return on extension. The only thing that really takes a little bit of time is, like I said, doing that quick calculation to figure out if you owe any state tax today as well. But if you just want to get that return on extension so you're not being hit with any late filing penalties or anything like that, today is the day to get that done. Reach out to your tax professional, confirm with them that you don't necessarily have to put any business returns on extension. If you just have a bunch of single member LLCs that are populating on your Schedule C, you are A-OK. The next deadline that is approaching, now this deadline is for everyone under the sun, and that is our 4/15 deadline. I'll be dropping a video on that on 4/15, just explaining exactly what you guys need to worry about, and I will have a plethora of videos on my channel discussing all the tax documents that are going to be required for that 4/15 deadline, how to mitigate risk, obviously, and how to reduce your tax bill for 4/15. My name is Karrington Dennis. I'm a certified enrolled agent. Thank you for watching this video. Feel free to like and subscribe for more content. Bye for now.